Yep, we gotta, oh yes, gotta get our cues in the right place. Good evening, everybody. It's really good to see you, and welcome to the 5th LJMU MA Short Film Festival. So that's one tongue-tied I've got over. Hopefully we'll get through a few more, like paper birds. Okay, I'm John.
And I'm Bridget.
And we're your hosts for this evening, the showing and the questions and answers afterwards. So thank you very much for coming along. This is a lovely size audience for the first film screening of the week. Yes. Okay, now tonight we're showing a fantastic lineup of short documentary films from all over the world. We've had an absolutely fantastic number of films this year, and so we're going to follow tonight's session. We have Max, who I'd like to welcome you, has flown all the way from Mexico just to be here for our question and answers tonight. But we've hopefully we'll have about 4 other directors joining us online via the magic of the netherworld. And so we should have a fantastic question and answers, so please get your questions ready. So we look forward to meeting you, Max, later, and also all those other brilliant filmmakers.
And one of the great things about this festival is that it's completely free to enter, so it gives student filmmakers from all over the world the chance to share stories that we might never otherwise hear. And it gives us, as the audience, the chance to see such an incredibly diverse range of films. Now, we received hundreds of documentary films this year, which made selecting just 90 minutes a real challenge, but we think that we've chosen the very best examples of student filmmaking for you here today.
So, because the decision on all these hundreds of films was so tough, we decided on a sort of common theme that you'll see tonight, which is about overcoming challenges and overcoming adversity. So you'll see lots of stories with a whole variety of techniques and filmmaking styles on the theme of resilience, and I hope that you'll enjoy them.
So yeah, as John said, over the next hour and a half, we'll be watching films that delve into personal topics, including dealing with trauma, mental illness, mothers reconnecting with their daughters, complicated cultural identities, and the power of creativity in turning anger into poetry instead of violence, and much more. But just a warning, some of the films may reference some content that may be triggering for some people, so if this worries you, you can find specific content warnings on our website.
Now, as some of you already know, on Friday we'll be hosting our awards ceremony for films, the best films that our wonderful jury has decided from this selection of films tonight. And they will be presenting our Paper Bird Awards from each strand of the festival. However, there is something that you can all do, because we're also presenting an audience award, and that's where you all come in.
So after each film is shown today, there'll be a little break, and on screen you'll see a QR code. So if you can, and more importantly, if you like the film, scan the code and give the film a thumbs up. If you don't particularly like a film, that's fine, you don't have to do anything. And if you missed the QR code for some reason, you can find it on our website or in our lovely brochure, and you can vote that way. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. But put simply, give the films a thumbs up that you like, and this will help decide our audience award on Friday. Now, another thing, we're also running a Letterboxd review competition, so if you use Letterboxd, feel free to leave some of our films a review of 50 words or more, and you have to leave a review for a minimum of 10 films, and then you can win a £50 Amazon gift card. But you can find, again, more information about this on our website or our social media.
So we hope that you'll find our selection of documentaries as moving and insightful as we did in selecting them. So, as they say in the movies, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
这么个原因。
Внешне оставалось все так же, все замечательно. Ни истерик. Просто она в себе там замкнулась где-то.
I guess that's one of the reasons we take videos and photos. At the end of the day, we might only remember the most important moments in our life. The most important moments in our life.
Laura and Jake.
I don't need my microphone on this. Hi, all the people on the call here.
Hello, are you all here?
If you could put your
Hello?
cameras on if you're here. So that our audience can see you all on screen.
Hi, Cecilia. Hi, Dina. Hi, Jake.
Hello.
Have we got Nina? Are you able? Hi, Nina. Hi, Laura.
Great, is this everyone?
Yeah.
Hey, so welcome back everybody. We hope on the short break you've voted for the Audience Award. And we are now joined by our wonderful filmmakers.
And for those filmmakers, I'm John.
And I'm Bridget, and our audience will give you a little round of applause to say welcome. And we've just seen all of your wonderful films.
Yeah, as Bridget says, we've really enjoyed watching all those films. And we wondered whether we could start by asking each of you a little bit about yourself and how you came to filmmaking, and a little bit about your film that we've all seen and enjoyed so much tonight, and what inspired you to make that particular film. So, shall we just start?
With our amazing in-person
with
guest all the way
in-person.
from Mexico.
Max.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us here, and all the team that makes this awesome festival possible. Also to our fellow filmmakers, which work I enjoyed and I loved watching. Amazing films. Thank you very much. Well, my name is Max. I come from Mexico, Mexico City, and well, what made me make this film was my concern and interest in childhoods under vulnerability. And first of all, it was a very, very long process, but at start, we wanted to make a film about children who work in militias in Guerrero, which is a state in Mexico that it has a lot of cartel violence, and kids in those communities have to join and be like little militias. But that definitely was very, very hard to be like a first documentary in our case to work in. Yeah. So I still wanted to keep the essence of that childhood. No? So we end up finding this shelter called Hogar Dulce Hogar, and then we wanted to make a film about orphanage and children who are orphanage or live some kind of vulnerability. And we discovered that this shelter had a program for young mothers who are undergoing any kind of difficulties, such as abuse or drug addiction or any other circumstances that does not allow them to be with their children. What this foundation or this shelter does is that they take care of the children while their mother either has some kind of rehabilitation or ends their school and studies or finds a job, and then they can get them back. So, well, that's why we wanted to make that our theme, and then this shelter brought Julia, who is one of the mothers who had their daughters in this children's shelter, and then I met with her. I loved her story. I loved her, and after she told me everything she got gone through, then I knew for sure that she had to be our protagonist, and yeah, all of the story was already there. So we just put the camera on her and started recording and tried to find images that could best describe or translate what she went through and all of this odyssey that it's the process of growing up in these harsh conditions and then having to leave their two daughters under this children's home. Yeah.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah,
Max.
a really beautiful story, yeah.
And maybe we'll hear, Daniel, we'll hear from you just very briefly.
Well, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm also from Mexico. I was the sound designer of the same documentary, Roots. So just to complete what Max already said, in the case of sound, the director of photography and Max as director were looking to portray this story, as you already say, with images of Mexico City that are that are kind of related to what Julia passed through, but not exactly. It's like kind of metaphors, like the trees, the buildings, the houses. So in the case of sound, we wanted to find those kind of metaphors in the case of the sound to complete these images that are not exactly telling us the story of Julia, but that we can start to imagine it, to fill the gaps, or like when we see these little guys playing basketball while she's telling us about when these bikers come and start to shoot she and her friends. So, well, that's the kind of sound. No? We try to to look for sounds that can complete this sense of metaphors, and to feel and lead the audiences to imagine who they are going through.
Great, thanks, Daniel. That's absolutely great. Cecilia, we started this wonderful evening with your beautiful film. I wonder if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us what inspired your particular film.
I'm Cecilia. Hi. Thank you for having my movie. Thank you for the compliments. Swim Higher was inspired by the 2022 sort of scandal that happened in Italy. And around that time, basically, there had been in newspapers discourses about psychological abuse in the sports environments, and especially in the artistic gymnastics environment. And when that scandal came out, I sort of realized that I was never really shocked by that news, because I had been witnessing a lot of psychological pressures in sports environment since since a very young age, even though I had never been an athlete, but even just in physical education classes in school and stuff like that. And I was wondering like how deep something like that could have been for professional athletes. So my first thought was to make a documentary about this topic, about the topic of artistic gymnastics, that even though it was all over the news, like no one was really making documentaries about it. In fact, a documentary came out around that same time about the national team of gymnastics, and it was completely avoiding the topic of the scandal of these psychological pressures that were proved happening in the national team. But when I started working on the movie, I was at the time living in Prague, where I studied cinema. And I was living with a former athlete from the national swimming team of Italy. And we were just talking about this topic, and she told me how she also felt like that was happening in the national swimming team as well. And she was a swimmer, but she mentioned something about the artistic swimming team and about Gemma, who is the protagonist of the movie. She was the captain of the national team. She had been the captain in 2022. And shortly before being the captain, she was studying psychology in university, and she, in her final thesis, before her graduation, she talked about her own experience with eating disorders and how they're sort of connected with the aesthetic sports, what she calls aesthetic sports, so sports that have this sort of aesthetic component in them, because training from a very young age can be tough for children, and they're all always encouraged to keep their physiques, even though of course it's impossible once children start growing. It's very hard to keep that same physicality, and this is like when the problems can start. It's not always like that, but of course there is some sort of connection between the two that should be looked into because of all the cases of eating disorders in these environments. And there has been change happening. The World Federation of the Artistic Swimming is updating their rules for the sports in the Olympic Games as well. We have just recently seen this, but the Italian swimming team, let's say, that still has some problems to acknowledge the problem that is happening, and actually is still resisting this idea and going against people like Gemma that try to at least ask the federations to acknowledge this problem and to try to prevent it and to bring, let's say, sport back to a positive image of just education and growth and this.
Oh, great. Well, that was very insightful. Thank you. And then Dilnaz, would you speak next and just briefly introduce yourself and say about the inspirations for your film?
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Dilnaz. Thank you for having me at your festival and watching my film. It's a great honor. My film is called 64 Reasons Why Everything Went Wrong. It's about relationship between mother and daughter. I don't know what to say because this film was really sudden to me because, as you know, in documentary, sometimes it all falls apart. And initially, so it is my thesis film for my university, and I went to different city to shoot completely different film, and then it fell apart at some point, and then I started looking for different theme and what to shoot. Then I had a very strict deadline of like I had to make my film in like a month from that point. So it was a very hard time for me also. But then with my character Ainur, we are friends. We lived together in a student dorm, and I knew some part of her story about her being abused and her difficult relationship with her mother, but I didn't know the whole story, and I didn't know if she would agree to be filmed. So one day I just wrote to her like, "Do you want to do this? If you're up to it?" And she said, "Yeah, of course." And then she just got a cab next day and come to the city where she was born. I was in the city. And then I met her mother, and the whole film, the process took only 2 days, 1.5 day, I guess. I wasn't really prepared, so I just go with the flow. I prepared the questions for interview. I met the mother, and the interviews were like 5 hours, 6 hours, because we cannot just really ask the mother of like, your daughter was raped. Can you talk about that? You cannot just ask that. You need to like be very careful and everything. So it was a very difficult process, but the most difficult process was the post-production of editing. I really struggled with that, but I'm really happy with how the film came out because the viewers, I had a lot of feedback from women because this topic is very important for my country because sexual abuse among children or children it is like very horrifyingly rising in our country, and I wanted to make a film about that. And also I am very interested on relationships between mother and daughter, between sisters. I deeply love my mother, and I want to show to people like this connection that they have, that they can endure all the hardships and everything. So yes, and I got feedbacks from a lot of women from my mother, and they shared their experience, and they could unite and tell their stories. Don't be afraid of telling it, sharing it. So I'm happy that this film helped them. So this is the important part. That's why I made this film.
Oh, thank you. And you certainly found some engaging characters. We've got Laura and Nina. You had some really interesting characters in your film. I wonder if you'd tell us a bit about yourselves and how you come to make this film and how you found it.
Hello, thank you for inviting us for your festival. We are so glad to be here. I don't know, we started the idea of this documentary because we both really enjoy the rhyme battles. That is a form of art, a form of culture that is really strong right now in Brazil. It has been for a few years now, but in the past 2 years, it has really gained a different kind of strength.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that?
That for the part of where we found those characters, that's what Laura said. We go to these rhyme battles. We really enjoy it. So although there are a lot of people who go there and rhyme, and a lot of people who watch it, since it's like an emerging culture, there is like a lot of people know each other between this art. So we ended up meeting people, and those people introduced us to other people, and we were talking about it. We started talking about between ourselves, because me and Laura, we find out that this was a common interest between us, kind of by accident. And we started talking about it, about making documentary, and I'm really glad with how it came out. So, as Laura said, these rhyme battles, they are an emerging culture. They are gaining popularity now, and they mostly use like common spaces around the city. So it's not happening in a theater or in movie, a movie theater. It is in streets. It is in, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm a little nervous. It is in public spaces. So it is a really democratic art. Everyone can watch it. Everyone can start to rhyme. So we really wanted to talk about it in our documentary. It's really interesting for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds a lot of fun. Bridget.
Yeah, and then I think finally, Jake, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your film and the inspiration.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you for selecting my film. I'm blessed. Yeah, dear Valerie, where to begin? It's about my grandmother, and is very close to me. So she passed away, and as soon as she passed away, I really wanted to make a piece that I wanted to make a piece of art first of all, and I thought that's not enough. So I went away and had to think about it, and she had a whole life in the UK and Ireland. And I was thinking, what better way to store all of the memories from people that were close to our family and her family than to put it in a documentary. And while looking through her belongings, I was able to find a series of diaries which I didn't know she had. And unfortunately, her son passed away in 2004. And from 2004 right up until she passed, she wrote to him every single day, "Hi, Martin," in every page for 20 years. So with those diaries, I set in mind to create this documentary and have it be like a love letter to her, because I'm very close to my mother, and I know that if she lost me, she would be very lost, and that's what I felt that my nan was. So it was a love letter to her, which is why it's called Dear Valerie. And along the way, I found some interesting facts, like she converted to Catholicism just to be buried next to him, which I had no idea. And being a Catholic myself, she was raised Jewish, and she converted herself, which I found very fascinating, which I didn't know. And it was just a very cathartic piece, if that could be used as the right word, because it's hearing about your family from someone else, funny stories, sad stories. And it's also a piece that you get to watch with your family that isn't as much closure, because there really isn't ever closure to someone passing away, though it's something nice to sit around and watch in remembrance. So I made it less than making just an art piece, than to make something that we can sit around and enjoy and have a think about our dear family member. And obviously for others to get to know her beautiful story of trying to get closure, but trying to deal with someone passing away as well.
No, that's great, and that really comes across in the film. So now we're gonna ask each of you a few specific questions, and then maybe one question due to time constraints, unfortunately. And then we're going to pass it on to our audience for some questions, and you as filmmakers are also welcome to ask each other any questions if
you may have some questions you'd like to ask each other, having watched each other's films.
So we'll go back to Cecilia then. So the visuals in your film are a really beautiful element of it, especially of the underwater scenes, and that really showcase the beauty of the artistic swimming. Could you talk about the process and the technical elements of filming those scenes, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, so, well, a lot of it, of course, is my friend Kira's vision and talent. She's a great filmmaker. We both studied at Prague Film School. She is now studying at FAMU in Prague, and she's a narrative director, actually. So she makes movies as a director and not even as a director of photography, but she was really a great director of photography. And we filmed in a swimming pool in northern Italy. It's actually the first swimming pool where Gemma, our protagonist, ever trained, and so it was also like symbolic to be filming those scenes in the place where she actually started swimming. We didn't have a lot of budget, of course, so we just had to improvise with low budget materials. We did have our main camera that was a Blackmagic Pocket from school, but we filmed the underwater scenes with a different camera and with just, it's funny to say, but it was literally just a bag that I bought from Amazon, and we tested it first without a camera, and then we trained with it in Prague's swimming pool during a lunch break with Kira, and it wasn't easy. When we went to the shooting, we only had 3 days to film the whole documentary because we were studying in Prague and the documentary was filmed in Milan, so we didn't have many days, and also it was the final season, so everybody was shooting their own movie as well. We had a very tight schedule for those scenes, and we filmed the first scenes right away, and then we just tried to experiment a bit while we were there. The hardest thing was that the camera would float, and Kira would float with the camera as well, so it was hard to keep the camera underwater. And then eventually there was a nice experimentation with everything that we could find, materials as well. So the opening scene, actually the one that was filmed underwater, was improvised because we found some weights in the swimming pool, and we decided to try to put them on the camera and to sync the camera. And we asked Gemma to swim to the bottom of the pool and try to place the camera underwater, and then we filmed like a couple of times, and we eventually got the first shots that we put in the beginning of the movie. So it was a fun process for sure. It wasn't easy because many hours in the water actually made us realize also what the artistic swimmers go through when they train, and this is a big element of it, of how hard it is to train for the sport. One of the first things that Gemma told me about what she would remember from her trainings was how cold the water gets after a while, because you're just standing there, you're just staying in the water, and you're not always constantly moving. So at some point you get really cold, and I think our director of photography felt the same after a while. But yeah, we tried to make these aesthetic scenes to convey the elegance of the sport, and that was a good contrast to instead like the darker and less elegant part of it.
Thank you very much for that, Cecilia. I've got a question for Dilnaz. I was really impressed at the way you, I don't know, your mother and daughter were so articulate and were able to tell deeply emotional and resonant stories, and yet you succeeded in getting that naturalistically in the course of your film. And I just wondered how you achieved that natural behavior and managed to tell the story in such in the way that you did.
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for this compliment. It's really an honor to hear. So I came to the city and I didn't have any like equipment. I had only my camera, the Sony, and one very old lens, Soviet lens, and I had very little wireless microphones, and I didn't even have my tripod because I forgot it. So I had to build a tripod. I put like a chair, put a lot of books, and then put my camera, and I was holding it for 5 hours when I was doing interview, and then camera would be heated and it turned off in the middle of interview, and I was like, oh, okay, let's keep going. So it was a little bit hard, but for me, I really like filming people in their own like space, on their own environment. I don't like filming in some other place, like in a library or something, or in a studio. I want to make them comfortable in their own space and film everything that surrounds them. So, and also I didn't, first of all, I didn't have lights, but I didn't really wanted to use them because I wanted this very closeness and intimacy, because it is very intimate topic that we don't really discuss in our families. So in our culture, we don't really discuss those things. It's like a shame for most of the women or anyone in our culture, I think, in our country, to speak about those things. So I wanted to show this feeling of just me and my camera and people. It's just a discussion. We're just talking. And I wanted to be as real as possible and very heartwarming, even if it's a very difficult topic, because love of mother and daughter is such a unique, such a lovely thing. And I wanted to capture this as it is.
And you certainly succeeded there. Thank you very much, Bridget.
Yeah, great. And then now on to Laura and Nina. So amazing film and a very unique topic, and a really, really enjoyable watch. So I was just wondering, what sort of challenges, if any, did you face during the filming of this? And how did witnessing all of this, did this have any influence on your perspective?
I'm really sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
Oh, can you hear me a bit clearer now? Sorry. So I was just asking, what sort of, if any, challenges did you face during the filming of your documentary? And was there anything that occurred that kind of changed your perspective of the topic?
Yeah, of course, there's always challenges. I think mostly doing independent cinema as students, there's always a lot of challenges. I think for us, one of the challenges was we didn't want to somehow disrupt the show that was already going on, the Rhine battle. So we had to find a way to position the camera, to position the microphone, so that it wouldn't mess with anything. And at the same time, we had to get good lines and communicate with the rest of the team, which was really small, but a great group of people. I feel like that was the challenge, and also how we would direct this specific part, because we couldn't really do anything. It was more let the thing happen and record. So I think it was also a challenge to hold back and let the show happen.
That was great.
And I think the perspective changed a lot because we really wanted mostly to understand how their thinking worked during the rhyme battles. We asked about it for them in the documentary because they have to listen what the other is saying and think about a response and what rhymes the words, and we really wanted to understand that and how it's like to live through the rhyme battles. And I think their answers really changed our perspectives from it.
I've got a question
Yeah,
for
I
you.
agree.
Oh, sorry. I've got a question for you, Jake. Where did you find those two wonderful characters that you used in the in your film that really lightened the mood?
The mood. Benny and Tommy, you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I only wanted to incorporate 3 characters so that people could actually get to feel those characters rather than including, because I did way more interviews. I did maybe 20 with 20 different people, and I felt those were the best characters because of not only their accents, but they shone through the camera, and that's really what you
Yeah.
look for when you're interviewing someone. And it was inside of her home still, my nan's. So they were reliving memories while they were there, and not only their accents, but they were just reliving things right in front of me because I'd written down all the same questions for the same people, because I just wanted not the same answers, but different answers to the same question to see what the different perspective from different people would be. But yeah, I'm just lucky that my nan knew some quirky characters that I could use for the film. She had a great life, yeah.
Oh no, that's great, thank you. And now to our in-person guest. So you kind of mentioned before what kind of the background of getting involved in that story, and you spoke about the thematic interests you have of looking at kind of fractured life. What drew you to that topic and continue to draw you to the topic?
Well, I'll try to be very brief. What always seems to bring me back to trying to tell these stories about families and family relationships is how some things are inherited, and some inheriting sometimes like some kind of disease, like poverty, or we notice that some of the problems that parents had, that parents of the children from the shelter had, sometimes could also get passed to their children. For example, a child that sees that his father beats his mother probably will repeat that kind of abuse and conduct over his life. No, so that's what really I think it's very, very tough, and it's worrying, you know, and finding this foundation that tries to break this chain of disease within these families. I think that's what the story is about. No, I didn't say it right like that, but that's the idea, you know, and yeah.
Daniel, do you want to add anything to that?
No, well, I mean, I think that some filmmakers are like deeply attracted to some themes, to some subjects, some matters, and well, you should wait to see the next short film because it's also related to this kind of themes, and I find it quite interesting how some filmmakers is like they're doing not exactly the same film, but the same stories. No, as maybe something that comes from their childhood, I don't know where, but something very deep that moves them and moves us to found those kind of stories.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's all we've got time for our questions. But if the audience have any questions, feel free to put your hands up and we can give you a microphone.
And if any of our filmmakers want to ask a question of each other, and anyone?
I thought that all the films were great. I was just wondering what you've got planned for the future. Is it documentary that you're specifically interested in? Are you thinking about moving into other areas of filmmaking? Or is it just documenting real life?
Is this a question for Max?
Everyone.
Max, do you have an answer?
Okay. Well, in our school we have like this kind of programs. In our case, we both are specializing in fiction, not documentary. This is one of our first exercises in the college program, on our second year. But in my case, I'm more interested in fiction, and my following works also have this, like Danny said, this kind of parental and parenthood relations and motherhood. And but yeah, I think documentary, it's an amazing canvas for us as filmmakers to get into and getting to know other people, and it's an amazing process as a creator, because documentary, in difference with fiction, it's not written beforehand. Otherwise, it's like you have to be there on the editing room to discover a brand new thing that you never thought it could be in paper. I mean.
Okay, and does another filmmaker want to answer this question?
Feel free to pitch
yeah,
in.
Dilnaz.
Yes, Dilnaz.
I can answer. I did my bachelor's in documentary, and right now I'm doing my master's in Los Angeles on documentary. So I am actually planning to move in documentary field. Right now I'm working on 2 documentaries. One back in my home in Kazakhstan about domestic violence. It's about shelter for women and for children. A lot of cases of domestic abuse and sexual abuse and human trafficking. And second one is here in Los Angeles about Death Cafe. It is when people gather and talk about deaths. They eat cake, drink tea, and talk about death, about grieving and this remembering people, and like being talking about small death, so on. So yeah, right now I'm working into documentaries.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay, so shall we? We are running low on time.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to ask another question?
Ask. Any?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or any other?
Does any filmmaker want to answer the question or ask another question?
I can answer the question.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Jake.
That's all right. I'd love to be able to make a film in another language, and at the moment I'm practicing my Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, so I can make a film fully in that. I'm gonna make that a fiction, and it's a drama, and it's got 5 pages so far, but I keep going over it because the translation's incorrect, and my girlfriend is Brazilian, so she keeps correcting me. But she keeps correcting me on what they would say, what they wouldn't say. That's not right. Yeah, I just want to make a film that's completely foreign to what my cinema language is, so that I can adapt as a filmmaker. So I've been watching Brazilian films, and I'm Still Here is a great one. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all our filmmakers, and thank you for all the time differences in Brazil. Cecilia, I believe you're speaking from Prague, or are you back in Italy?
I'm speaking from Rome, Italy.
Back in Italy, Kazakhstan, Dilnaz, you're So we have a truly global selection, and thank you all very much. Max, you've probably got used to the jet lag now. So we'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening and for enlightening us so much. And to our audience, I'd like to thank you all for coming along to this session this evening to see our strand and selections. I hope that you've enjoyed the films and the insight into the creative process that our filmmakers have given us tonight.
Thank
by
you.
Their presence.
Yeah, and we also hope that you can join us on our other screenings this week. We have animation here tomorrow, fiction on Wednesday, and experimental on Thursday, and then on Friday we have our amazing awards ceremony at Scale. So feel free to join, and also remember to vote for the audience award. And yeah, hope you have a safe journey home, and thank you to all our filmmakers.
Thank you so much for having us.
Ciao.
Thank you.
And thank you to the crew as well
And
for
thanks
making
to the
this
tech
happen.
crew, yeah. Who kept it all going.